Is the Multistrada V2S just a rebadged 950, or does it bring more to the party? Well, the answer in short is yes, and not that much, but the V2S is an evolution of the 950 and it's been tweaked and refined. Most notably, it's been on a bit of a diet, losing 5 kilograms of curb weight. The seat is lower and narrower. The clutch and transmission have been breathed on, and it's also nicked a few parts from the Multistrada V4. But given that the previous iteration was a great machine, it's all good news. This particular model is the V2S Travel, so it gains hard luggage, heated grips and a centre stand over the standard V2S. And it will set you back £15,525, which is £1,182 more. The S models come as standard with Ducati's Skyhook Evo semi-active electronic suspension with electronically adjustable preload for the rear. Each of the 4 riding modes, Touring, Urban, Enduro and Sport, have their own independent suspension settings. Brakes are Brembo M4 radial calipers. They've got plenty of power and feel, but we'll talk about that more in the riding section. The lightweight 19-inch front wheel comes straight from the Multistrada V4, and it's shod with Pirelli Scorpion Trail 2 tyres, which I really like. I fitted a set of these to my street twin a few years ago and I absolutely love them. Really good grip on dry tarmac. They work very well in the wet. Very confidence inspiring, and they'll take you a little way off-road as well if you need them to. An excellent choice for a bike like this. And I think the 19-inch front wheel is a good choice too. Mind you, when riding, you could be fooled into thinking it's a 17-inch, given how nimble and quick the turn the bike is, but this certainly does add some stability. This beautifully finished sculpted bodywork hides a 20-litre fuel tank, and given that the fuel economy is in the 50s, that gives you a very decent range too. The windscreen is simplicity itself to adjust, and I'll talk about its performance later in the video. The bike is fitted with a 6-axis IMU, so that brings cornering ABS and traction control, as well as cornering lights from these beady looking LED units. There's a 12-volt power supply up front, although annoyingly it's one of the narrow heli connectors, which means you'll more than likely need an adapter for most accessories, but there is also a USB port under the seat. The TFT screen, which appears on the S model but not the standard, is nice and clear, easy to navigate and very easy to read. It also provides tons of information. The controls are excellent quality too, as you would expect from Ducati. The luggage on the Travel Edition comes in the form of a 26 and 30 litre hard case, which are made by Givi. Plenty of storage space, and the bigger of the two will take a full face helmet, which is good to see. They're also incredibly quick and easy to fit and remove, much less fiddly than some others. I think it's a beautiful looking bike for this particular segment, and it's got all of the bells and whistles on it that you could ever want, although you do have to pay for them. But of course the important thing is, what is it actually like to ride?
Okay, so we've had a look around the bike and we've picked up on all the tech and the features. So now it's time to find out what it's like where it matters on the road. And I'll start as usual with ergonomics, and I'll say straight off the bat, this is a very comfortable motorcycle to ride. I picked it up from Ducati UK. I rode home for about 3.5 hours. I took a very twisty route, 3.5 hours to do about 120 miles to get back home, and I did that in pretty much one hit. I think I stopped for a wee break, and that was about it. And I didn't have any aches or pains. The seat is very comfortable. It's a very sculpted seat. It sits down low into the bike. The bars are a good position, nice and close to you. I've got a nice bent arm with those. They're at just the right height. The seat height isn't adjustable. The standard height is 830 millimeters, but I'm 5'10" with a 32-inch inside leg, and I can flat foot this very easily. If you're a little bit shorter or have shorter legs, there is an accessory low seat that you can have fitted to the bike, and that brings the height down to 790 millimeters. One thing I don't normally mention, which I will talk about, are the mirrors. Mirrors are what they are, but these are very good indeed. Nice aluminium arms, good solid arms, but the position of these is perfect for me, and yeah, brilliant, really good, really impressed with those. But the quality of the controls is really good, and they're backlit, so at night no problem seeing those. Yeah, it's typical Ducati really, all just really nice quality bits, and that's the same for everything on the bike. The build quality is really good. But what about the screen? We've got an adjustable screen here. It's in its highest position because it is cold today. It is currently 2 degrees, and I've got to watch out because I think there might still be a bit of ice kicking around out here somewhere. And in its highest position it works really well. I get a little bit of noise around the helmet. I don't get any buffeting. Obviously there's a difference in my eyes between noise and buffeting. Buffeting is when your head's going to get blown around, and you're always going to get some helmet noise. And with this in its highest position, I don't get very much of that at all. It's really simple to change as well. Pinch the clip, move it down, and you can obviously stop it anywhere in between those two ranges. With it down, it's right out of your line of sight, and obviously you get a little bit more airflow onto your helmet, but still not too much noise. At motorway speeds it can get a little bit noisy, but again that's going to depend on you, your size, the helmet you're wearing, all that type of stuff. See if I can tell him. The back door is open. Back door. I've ridden bikes with better screens, but I've also ridden bikes with much worse screens, so it's decent enough. But that ease of adjustability is one thing about it that is obviously really good. So as I mentioned in the technical overview, this is the travel version, so you do get centre stand, the luggage, and heated grips. Heated grips are really helpful. I've got those on today. As I said, it's only 2 degrees, and I've got them on high, or I put them on high. Actually they still are on high, and my hands are getting pretty hot actually. They work really well. So let's cover off the other key bits. Suspension, obviously this bike is fitted with the Skyhook Evo semi-active suspension, so a big 48mm upside down forks at the front, and it's sacks that provide the suspension underneath this, but the electronic adjustment and that semi-active works really well. So the suspension obviously changes its characteristics depending on what riding mode you're in, and within each riding mode you can go in and change all of the settings for the suspension, as well as obviously the traction control and everything else. And we've got cornering ABS, traction control, all the stuff you would expect. I've been riding this bike on a mix of motorways, A roads, B roads, country lanes, and I have to say the suspension has coped with it all. Really nice and plush. You've got a real nice kind of planted, connected feeling to the road, but it soaks up the bumps. And obviously one advantage of having this is that you've got electronic preload as well. So actually I'll find somewhere, there's a place just around here, I can show you how that works. Just turn around here, don't go in the pond, don't go in the pond. Okay, yeah, so as I was saying, electronic preload adjustment. So hold down that switch here, and you can see we've popped up with what we've got. So we've just got a rider plus baggage, a rider and a passenger, or a rider, a passenger and baggage. All you do is hit the enter, and I can feel that preload starting to push in now to strengthen up the rear end. Let's just put it back into rider mode, and everything's softening up. Really nice and easy thing to do, really handy, no messing around with C-spanners and all that sort of business. It is a real godsend, I guess, for touring bikes if you're going to be switching from riding it on your own to riding it with a pillion to having luggage and all that business. I really like that. But yeah, the suspension really lovely, makes for a really nice handling bike. It feels sharp, it feels agile. It's the sort of bike you can munch lots of miles in pure comfort, but if you want to scratch around as well, then the bike is more than willing to do that. The brakes I can talk about very quickly because the brakes are very good. Really great feel, there's no problem with that at all. But if you need to pull yourself up in a hurry, they are really powerful. So ergonomics are great, suspension's really good, brakes are really good. The obvious next point to talk about would be the engine performance. This 937 Testastretta twin motor is obviously well proven. I recently reviewed the Supersport 950. It's the same motor that's in that. I think it's in the Monster, it's in a whole host of bikes, and it was in the Multistrada 950, which was the predecessor to this bike, which actually was on my list. When I bought my Tiger 800, I was looking at a Multistrada 950. The problem was I just couldn't find one in my budget. So I've always liked these bikes, I've always liked the look of them, and now I've had a chance to ride one for a long period of time. I'm still impressed by them. 113 horsepower, I think at 9,000 revs, 96 newton meters of torque at 6,750 revs. And this motor is nice and flexible, the power delivery is lovely, the mapping for the fueling is good, no snatchy throttles, everything's really lovely and smooth. It does sound like a bag of nails when you start it up first thing, but I thought that might improve as it warms up, but it doesn't really. But it has got such a nice exhaust note once you get up above 5,000. You can probably hear that in kind of the exhaust note and a little bit of induction roar, and it does sound beautiful, and I'll find some better roads to see if you can pick that noise up on. It's a bit blustery today as well, so you might struggle to hear it, but the engine really is a peach. I'm not getting any vibrations through the bars, I'm getting a little bit through the seat, but nothing through the bars. I was impressed as well by the size of that exhaust. Most bikes coming through that are Euro 5 compliant now have got massive, great big silencers on the exhaust, and I was quite surprised to see this was a really nice little small neat one. It's good for the luggage, but it just goes to show that manufacturers can do that. Having said that, obviously this has got a dirty great big cat that's sat down in the bottom of the frame. It's one of those cans that I don't think I would really want to change. It's small, it's neat, it sounds good, looks good. I'd be quite happy with that as it is. Yeah, you can hear that sound, it is quite addictive. I've left the visor open to see if you can pick it up. It is a beautiful sounding machine. Not obnoxious, just sounds lovely. The quick shifter is excellent. No issues with the quick shifter at all, works really well both down and up. I've had no false shifts from it. Now I am in a fortunate position with this channel to get to ride lots of different bikes and try lots of different bikes, and it's hard not to fall in love with a lot of them. It is very difficult to buy a bad bike these days, it's all really down to personal preferences, but there are just some bikes that give you the wants more than others. The Norden 901 was one of those bikes and still is, and I can add this to the list. As somebody that's been looking for or looking at the Multistrada 950, there's nothing about this bike that disappoints. I've been trying to find negatives to go along with it, and I am struggling a little bit. As an all-round riding machine, it's fantastic. The screen could be a little bit better in terms of the protection. I think if it was wider that might help, but that's a minor niggle. I can kind of understand and I see why people get dragged into that Ducatista lifestyle. I can see the appeal. I wouldn't go the whole hog with the Ducati helmet and leathers and all that business, but in terms of the ownership of the bike, it does feel special. Particularly, I suppose, if you have the red one. Red bikes are always quicker anyway, we know that. I'd certainly see myself owning a Ducati, and if I was going to join the Ducatista family, then I think this is the bike that I would go for. It needs an oil change every 15,000 kilometers and a valve clearance check every 30,000 kilometers, so that's not too onerous. I don't know what servicing costs are like, having never owned a Ducati. So as you can probably tell, I do really like this bike. Obviously, if you want to venture off-road, this model is only really going to be any good for sort of gravel tracks and fire roads, very flat stuff. But I say, a fantastic bike to ride on twisty, sweepy roads like this. It is amazing. As I say, the 19-inch front wheel on this, but you'd be hard pushed to tell. It handles so nicely, so stable, very neutral, I think is the best word to use for it. And I've got plenty of grip, plenty of confidence in that front end. And just listen to that engine. Woohoo! Yeah, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. So I think I've covered everything I wanted to in this section, so it's probably a good time to wrap the video up. Thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it's been useful. If you've got any questions, drop them in the comment section down below. If you like the video, hitting the like helps me out. What helps me out even more is if you haven't already subscribed, hit that subscription button and the notification bell, and then you'll get updates of all the new reviews and videos as they come through. And all that leaves me to say is until next time, thanks for watching, take care, ride safe, and I'll see you soon. Bye.